Morning everybody, I'll be showing you my Nekroz deck profile just shortly, but this is actually a new webcam I've bought, so there's also a testing ground for this. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks I'll be using this to stream games and get on board with the Twitch thing everyone's talking about now. I'm also hoping to get some card games streamed, some of my violin playing, some drawing, card altering, all sorts of things, so hopefully we'll get on that. But for now, the Nekroz deck profile for Yu-Gi-Oh! It's this deck that everyone's talking about at the moment. Took 22 of the 32, top 32 at YCS Tacoma last week. Managed to get hold of the stuff for myself, and I am hopefully trying again to get it for a friend. But it is not cheap. This deck is not for the faint of heart. If you want this, you're going to have to spend some money. The next Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile I'll do will be a much lower sort of costing deck because not everyone has this kind of money. I'm very lucky because of where I work and I can trade for these things more easily than some. But yeah, I think that it's good so that we can show people how the deck works, what they can do, and some of the early game plays. So enjoy and see what you think.
So getting right into it, I'm going to start with the lovely blue monsters that make the Nekroz deck what it is, Rituals. Now we'll be starting with 2 Trishula. Trishula's really good, but it's not actually the boss monster of this deck. Trishula is the same as his old Synchro counterpart, but he requires a lot more to make than he used to, in the sense that it's more difficult to just spam him than he used to. But we'll move on to the plays with him shortly. We play 3 copies of Nekroz of Brionac because he is the search card for the rest of the Nekroz. He's also easily searchable himself, so we can use him using Shurit, who we'll come to in a moment. But quite simply, he's a search card. He's expensive for a reason. He is necessary as a playset. You cannot run the deck without 3. Yugioh covers the same issue. He's used to grab them out of your bin, and he's also used quite easily with Kaleidoscope to abuse Herald of Arclight's effect. We'll come to those in a moment. Clausulus we're only running 1 copy of. The reason for this is because we're running 3 Rota. Rota obviously covers Clausulus and Shurit, and you don't need to run more copies than necessary. This deck we've found is very cramped for space. We're running 1 Nekroz of Gungnir. This one came from Secrets of Eternity. She's actually just very good as a single copy, purely because she can blow cards up. She's just a nice utility card, and her effect to protect a guy is never bad. 1 copy of Nekroz of Decisive Armor. He's also very useful as like an honest play. Someone could attack your your defense position Clausulus, or your attack position guy with a Dante for 2/5, and you say it's Yugioh, you buff him to 3/3. And even as a boss monster, blowing up a set card your opponent controls once per turn is useful, because this deck hates back row, absolutely hates it. And I think the MVP of this deck is actually this guy. I can't say I'm the only one that thinks that. Lots of people are talking about Nekroz of Valkyrus, because he is absolutely imperative in the mirror match. You absolutely have to stop your opponent's OTKs, and you need to set up quicker than them. Valkyrus does both. As for the effect monsters of the deck, we run 3 copies of Shurit. Shurit is extremely potent. He's used as like a Gishki would have been to make the entire ritual. He also searches for Brionac, which searches for anything else if you tribute him. Very simple, just brilliant. 3 copies of Manju, which is fairly self-explanatory. When he's summoned, search your deck for a ritual spell or ritual monster. To go with our 3 Manjus is 2 copies of Senju. It's upsetting that he's not foil, really. It's one of the few cards in this deck that isn't. He's obviously less potent than Manju, but having extra copies of Searchers, is what this deck does best, so we may as well run the extras. Some people run 3. I found that there was a lot less room in this deck than I would have liked, so we went with that. 1 copy of Dance Princess of the Nekroz. She basically fills the same role that Denko Sekka would have done, and I've seen a lot of people online running Denko Sekka in this deck, but I actually prefer her because she's more searchable, she does things when she's tributed, you can just summon her and then send her straight away for a Unicorn or towards something else, and pick up one of your banished cards, which you will be doing a lot of using their spells. And then a little suite that we've been using quite nicely is Armageddon Knight, Shadow Dragon and Djinn Releaser. As I said, this deck hates back row, so having a Shadow Dragon that you can use for a tribute for a ritual or as being sent for Armageddon Knight is useful. Armageddon Knight is searchable by reinforcement of the army, which is never bad, and you can use him to send a nice little bastard we like to call Djinn Releaser of rituals. Djinn Releaser can provide locks that few decks can get around. You have a Djinn Releaser on, say, a Valkyrus, and you've got not back row support, you've got hand trap support in the form of Gungnir or Valkyrus himself or anything, and it is very hard for your opponent to get around it. As for the spells, this deck runs no traps, I would like to point out, none at all. You can run Royal Decree or Vanity's Emptiness, but you will find that your traps will run. 3 reinforcement of the army, searches out Clausulus, searches out Shurit, and searches out Armageddon Knight, so there's no reason not to run a set. 3 copies of Preparation of Rites. This card is just a straight plus. There's just no reason not to run 3. It's just amazing. There's very few things that it can't grab in this deck. 3 MST, because back row is a cow, and we need to get rid of it as soon as possible. You see a Vanities, you want rid of it instantly. And then the rituals themselves, we run a suite of 6. I think 6 is the sweet spot here because you want to be able to open one, and having a fifth of the deck makes it so that it's more likely that if you're drawing 5 cards in your opening hand that you will get at least one of them. Kaleidoscope we went with 3 of because of the amazing plays it has with Herald of the Arclight. Mirror is really, really good sort of mid-game where you're trying to sort of solidify your plays, and Cycle is best at late game, whereas the reason we went 3, 2 and 1 is because Kaleidoscope is the one you want to see early game. Extra deck, it's mostly monsters that you want to be sending for the effects of Collider Mirror. So Shooting Quasar at level 12 can get you a Clausulus and a Trishula, a Briannac and a Briannac, multiple guys at once. Star Eater will get you Valkyrus and Clausulus, or it will get you, a Gungnir and a Unicorn. There are things that you can do with the combination. A 10 also provides the same thing. We are including the Exabeetle combo, which is gimmicky, but at the end of the day, you're only taking up 1 extra slot that you wouldn't have had originally by having Exabeetle, so it's not the worst thing in the world. So moving on from those, we have a Yugioh Guardian, because it's a level 6 that you can use to make a Briannac instantly. And then we have 2 copies of Herald of the Arclight that are used with Collider Mirror 2+ for days. As I said before, we have the Exabeetle as a one-off for the Exabeetle combos, and then mostly from there it's a suite of rank 4s. You'll actually go into rank 4s a lot more often than you might think. We have 2 rank 3s as well, purely because you can use Clausulus and a Djinn Releaser, or multiple Clausulus, or Shurit is a level 3. There's things that you can do with rank 3, so we decided to include a couple. The sort of plays that you'd want to make in this deck, Sideboard we will come to in a second. I haven't actually built one for here, but I can tell you the sorts of things that I would run. It's simply a matter of time that I haven't made one right now. The sort of plays that you may want to make would include, for example, by having a Manju and a Kaleidoscope in your hand, or a Manju and a Unicorn in your hand, you can go Manju for either Kaleidoscope or Unicorn, and then use the Kaleidoscope on Unicorn to summon it, and plus you send Herald of the Arclight to graveyard to summon Unicorn. You'll then search for Briannac using Arclight, and then that sets you up for plays for the rest of the turn. You can then either leave them as they are or overlay them into any rank 4. You can instantly pick up a Trishula by going Manju, searching for, it's quite simple, searching for Brionac. Discard Brionac, search for Clausulus. Discard Clausulus, search for Nekroz, Nekroz Mirror, and then Nekroz Mirror, banishing these two from the graveyard to make a Trishula. And those are the sorts of plays that you'll want to make early game. You want to apply pressure as early as possible and as quickly as possible. If you have Armageddonite and Djinn Releaser available to you, you'll obviously want to use those early so that you can establish an early lock. But what you're wanting to do is out-pressure your opponent by applying constant negative effects to your opponent whilst getting around things like vanities and sort of continuous spells and traps that might irk you at the same time. Sideboard-wise, I would heavily side in, considering that Nekroz is a very popular deck and its worst matchup is probably Cliffort. Tsukuyomi is an extremely popular card at the moment for it, because you can, if you're under a releaser lock, you can simply Tsukuyomi to shut it down, and then either just stick with what you have if it's a low defense card, which it shouldn't be, or start special summoning Unicorns and making rank 4s, or just special summoning something bigger to deal with the problem, using your own releaser if you need to. I would also consider Shared Ride. Shared Ride would allow you to sort of draw cards at the same rate as your opponent is. Max C would function in a similar way. You may want to consider Fairy Wind, because MST, because you're not running back row, does nothing to this deck, so you really don't need to worry about Fairy Wind on your own count, so you may as well run it to deal with Cliffort. Cliffort you're probably wanting to deal with quite heavily, so I mean the sorts of cards that you'd normally run would be that, you know, Dust Tornadoes, Twisters, anything that deals with Cliffort Scout as soon as you can. You may want to deal with just you know, again, for the mirror match, you might want to side in a third Valkyrus, because, as I said, you know, when covering Valkyrus earlier, he is extremely important in a mirror match because he can stop your opponent OTKing you. So having a third one there would help would benefit you quite greatly, so that you can continue to plus early and then continue to be able to stop your opponent from OTKing you and then do it back to them. So I think that covers everything about the Nekroz deck. Hopefully you guys will now have a better understanding of how the deck works, and we'll be able to play test together and sort of see how we get on with it. Feel free to leave comments if you've disagreed with anything I've said, or you think that I've built the deck incorrectly. And then other than that, just send us a like, a share and a subscribe, and pimp us out a bro. So thanks for everything, and I'll see you guys later.